What's one thing that every captain should do?
Throw you a curveball here.
Throw it.
Every captain should know the first name of every player in the entire program. The reason why that's so important to me is because as an educator, as a teacher, you see your kids every single day, right?
Yeah.
So every student in your classroom knows Coach Roundtree is my teacher. But I think the thing that is most impactful to me is like when I'm walking the halls and I see kids I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like I've never taught you, I've never seen you. And they're like, oh, hey, Coach Roundtree. And I'm like, these people know me and they've never interacted or met with me. That lets me know that my platform has influence.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Game Changers League podcast, where we're cultivating culture and shaping the future of sports with our conversation. I'm so excited about our guest that we have tonight. Today on Game Changers League, we sit down with one of the fastest rising basketball coaches in the state of Florida in high school basketball, Coach Sirdarious Roundtree of Lake Mary High School. Coach Roundtree turned Lake Mary from an average program into a Final Four contender. But this conversation isn't just about basketball. It's about culture, leadership, standards, and what it actually takes to get young people to believe in something bigger than themselves. If you're a coach, a leader, a parent, or athlete trying to build something meaningful, then this episode is for you. Coach, it's great to have you on tonight. Let me give you a little bit of a background of how I got to know Coach Roundtree. I actually was his ninth grade basketball coach at Leesburg High School, where I got my start at in the 2004-2005 season. And so I've known this young man since he was in the ninth grade, and I knew then that he was going to go on to do great things in the game of basketball. He's a guy that fell in love with it. He was a kid that wanted to get into the gym as much as he could to work on his game, and then after that year I left, moved back to South Carolina at the time, and but we've stayed in touch over the last 22 years, and.
Yeah.
And so, man, now he's doing great things at the very top of basketball in the state of Florida, 7A basketball there at Lake Mary. Man, it's so good to have you on with me tonight.
Man, it's an honor. It's an honor. It's always a great time every time we get to catch up. And so I look forward to, having a great conversation with you guys. And I know it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Got the opportunity to go down this past summer before this previous school year and spend a day with Sirdarious there and at Lake Mary, and just kind of caught up on him, his family, and on what he was doing there. And I know he was walking into the season, looking forward to it, feeling like, hey, let's take that next step. And they were able to do that, man. He took them to the Final Four this year for the first time in program history, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So whenever he took over the program, he was telling me this, and I'm gonna let him dive into his story and just kind of how he did some things there, how he built culture, all of that. We're gonna get into all of that, but I remember you telling me it was like a 30% winning percentage, like in the previous 10, 15 years there. And then, you've consistently just improved year over year over year to this year reaching the Final Four.
Yeah, that's right. When I interviewed for the job back in 2022, I believe it was, and part of my research, like I think, just looking at their season record year by year, and the data took me back to like 2002 or 2004, something like that. And I just started adding it up, and when I got to the total, it was 37%. And there wasn't any kind of traces of consistency. There weren't like back-to-back winning seasons. So I knew going into taking over this job, like we had to raise the floor before we could actually raise the ceiling. And so it's been 4 years in, it's been a reward. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. As you alluded to this year, it you know, materialized into a trip to the Final Four, the biggest stage of high school basketball. And so um, our guys have really done a phenomenal job. I owe a lot to them and just what they've poured into and what they've invested into in terms of bringing our vision to life.
Absolutely, man. Talk to me a little bit about, whenever you took over the program, obviously, and like you said, really raising the floor, you establishing some standards, establishing your culture, your vision. What was the one thing that you knew right away that you needed to go in and say, okay, if I can fix one thing in this first year, what would it be?
Respect, respect. The previous year, so I was coming from being an assistant coach at Evans High School in Orlando, where I graduated from after I moved from
Yeah,
Leesburg,
yeah,
and we played them, my last year as an assistant, and we won by maybe 40 plus. Um, it was scheduled to be a senior night game. We eventually had moved it so it wasn't. But I remember coming into the job, and when I was tasked with scheduling, everybody was calling trying to schedule us to be like, hey, let's play the last week of the season. Like, can you guys come here? And you start hearing it enough, and you're like, everybody wants us to be their senior night. That's what they think of our program in terms of it's just going to be a cakewalk, a blowout win. And so for me, the first thing was, especially coming from a program with such prestige as Evans, was like, we have to change the narrative and play a respectful brand of basketball first. I knew the winning would come eventually with time, but it was just to change the narrative. When
yeah,
you're scheduling Lake Mary basketball, whether you come to us or whether we come to you, knowing that you're going to be in for a dogfight. Our thing that first year was, can we be in position to win the game going into the fourth quarter? And if we found ourselves there, we knew we had a fighting chance. But the underlying foundation of that was the respect. And so that was like the agenda for year one.
yeah. I love that. One of the things I often do, taking over a program or being, whenever I go to a new place, and I've had the chance to do that now at four different schools, um, is the first conversation I have is, what do you want this community to say about you? Whenever they look at, Claremore Christian or Leesburg or wherever you're at, Lake Mary, what do you want? Like you said, what do you want the narrative to be? What do you want them to say about you? And then from there, it's like, okay, you got some goals, some buy-in, some, players can say this, and then as a coach, it's our responsibility, right, to say, okay, well, this is how you get there. These are the
Yeah.
steps you take. I love that. Change the narrative. So what were some of the first standards that you put in place whenever you took over the program to help you gain that respect, to help the players, one, respect the game, and then respect the coaching staff, but then also gain the respect of their community?
I would say the two main things were, one, to just be present, and then second, understand that there's a standard of how I want it to look. Um, you know, the being present part, it didn't take me long to figure out. Once I took the job and I met, um, some of our student athletes, it was very evident that a lot of those guys were, hey, we pick up basketball in November and we put it down in February, and we'll see you back in November, and then
Yeah,
we give it another 3 months. And so we had to change that. I truly believed in building a year-round program. Doesn't mean we're full throttle every single month, but there's an agenda, in terms
yeah,
of what we're trying to accomplish. So, being present, being committed to that, and then secondly, I think just the standard and what it should look like. I often use this with my team is, and this is something I took from a mentor, is, there's basically 5 levels that you can be at. You can be at bad, you can be at average, you can be at good, you can be at great, and you can be at elite. And I think the transparency and awareness of taking over at Lake Mary was, we're not elite and we're not good. And that's okay. You have to have a starting point. Our starting point was, we teetered between bad and average. And so, how do we move the needle? And you're not going to skip steps. You're not going to go from average to elite. You're not going to go from bad to good. You have to go step by step. And so, for us, being that, based on, where I've been in my career, and, the experience that I've had that I brought into that job, I can tell right away that it just wasn't done to the way that I wanted it to do. And that requires guys to get out of their comfort zone. It requires guys to embrace the new, and you don't do any of that without bonding with guys and building relationships first. But I think once we got it to where this is unacceptable in terms of what I'm putting out on the floor, and this is where it needs to be, I think daily you started seeing the shift and the change.
Yeah. Did you ever find yourself where you had to determine like do I keep this player of talent, or do I protect the culture that I'm trying to build? I mean, did you ever find yourself in those moments where you had to make those hard choices as a coach while you were building?
Absolutely, absolutely. When I took over at Lake Mary, that team was senior heavy from the previous year. So I really only had one returning guy. So in some ways, we got a chance to start fresh. But he had also, he was one of the better players on the team, and I was going to end up being his third coach in 4 years. And
Yeah.
so, there was a conversation to be had there as well. But he had so much influence, because he had been on varsity for so long. He was obviously really, really talented. So how he went, you could see the mood change based on the day. And, it took, having a sit down with him and his family and even some guys that transferred in that first year, like, hey, like, you guys have to understand I'm okay with losing, but we're gonna lose. We're
Yeah.
gonna lose the way that I want to lose. I'd rather lose the way that I want to lose, knowing that the vision is in place and we're gonna get to where we want to go, than compromise and win based on things that I don't necessarily align with when it comes to my values. So we had some of those moments our first year. And I think even in year, as we wrapped up year 4, you still have, I mean, you're dealing with teenagers, right? You're still
Right.
going to have the tug of war at times, but I think what I'm proud of today in terms of what we've built over the last 4 years is you have an understanding and alignment within our program that this is how we do things now. And so when you see people try to go against the grain, there's enough pull from your leadership team, from your captains, from the guys who have been in the program for multiple years of like, hey, like, and I think it's a Popovich-ism, if that's a word.
Yeah.
But like, you become us, we don't become you,
Right.
and that's something that we've stuck by. And, the guys that adapt and they want to be a part of that, they thrive. And then the ones that don't, I think on both ends, we have to be okay with this might not be the best place for you for both sides, and we're okay with that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think once guys understand that, then there's a good understanding.
I love it, man. I mean, because whenever it comes down to it, I mean, culture is all about fit, right? Like it's about getting people that fit within the vision that you have, the culture that you're trying to establish. And I love that because we live in a world and a day today where it's about like we got to win now, and if we're not winning now, then we're not being successful. And I just think that we're just teaching a whole generation of people the wrong thing, because
Yeah,
it's not about how quick you win; it's about how you prepare to win, right? Um,
absolutely.
you know, uh, we have a friend of ours here that's a friend to the show. He's been on our podcast before, Coach Zorn, who coaches baseball here at Rogers State University, and I remember him saying one time on the episode that we had about, I'm more concerned about guys doing what it takes to win than whether we actually win. And
Oh, yeah,
and so that is exactly what you're talking about, right? But we have so many coaches and athletes that, man, it's like I want to win. I want to get mine now, and they cut corners, and so it kills culture. It affects the long term vision of the program and success of the program. So I really admire you for doing that, because especially being a guy that took over your program. I mean, this was your first head coaching job. And within 4 years to be able to take them to the Final Four, 7A, because you build it the right way. And I know you've had some mentors and some different people in your life over the years that kind of help shape that. Talk to me about that a little bit. Like, what helped shape your coaching philosophy?
yeah. I've been really blessed. I've been really blessed. I think, part of it is I knew I wanted to coach since I was 10.
Yeah.
And as weird as that is, like I think back on it now, like everybody's aspiring to go be a pro athlete or a celebrity or whatnot. And I'm around here 10 years old trying to coach kids in the neighborhood. And it's like I've always known that. And I think it started at home. I had obviously had a good upbringing with my parents.
Absolutely.
My mom was a teacher, so that foundation, and still is a teacher. That foundation was in place. My dad, though I didn't necessarily grow up with my dad closely, him and I developed a relationship as I got older. And my dad coached,
Yeah.
so I think that influence definitely was the starting point. But I mean, playing throughout high school, I had great coaches, from my time in Leesburg with you and Coach McDowell, Coach Scott, those guys. And then even going to my coaching staff at Evans, like, at that time, you know, as a teenager, even though you want to coach, you're still playing. So it's still
Right.
different, But once I got done playing, and I went straight into being a student assistant at the college level. And I just had good mentors,
Yeah.
Clement Johnson, who, won a championship with the 76ers and had a pretty good NBA career, along with that staff. I ended up, I think, when I moved to Missouri and I took my first college coaching job as a grad assistant at Missouri Western, and I worked for a guy named Brett Weiberg, who's still coaching to this day in Oklahoma. He's the head coach at Southwest Oklahoma,
Okay. Yeah.
and he was probably the first coach that I had that taught me about transformational coaching, taught me how to coach through my identity and my relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
Who first taught me how, it's bigger than basketball. Yes, the pressure's on you to win, the pressure's on you to build it and build it fast. But the one thing that you're never going to, you know, that's never going to leave you is the relationships that you build with these young men, the people that you impact along the way, all the great memories off the court, and that's probably the where my mind started to shift of like, man, this thing is bigger than X's and O's. This thing is bigger than winning championships. This thing is bigger than, climbing the ranks and having my name across a platform and it being all about me. He's probably um the first guy that I really like stopped and put the brakes and was like, I think I got to start doing this different.
Yeah.
And then I'd be remiss if I didn't give the head coach at Evans High School, Lonzo Morgan, a big shout out. Once I once I left Missouri Western, my plan was to continue to coach college basketball. My mom ended up being diagnosed with breast cancer, and so I came home, put a pause on my coaching career, and came home to care for her. And that's when I got involved with coaching high school. And my alma mater reached out, and I'm like, man, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Got to go back
Right.
and do that. But I didn't know Coach Morgan. We just knew some of the same people, and to this day, man, he's like a big brother. We talk just about every single day. And so some of my philosophical things on the court, but also taking what Coach Weiberg implanted and going further with that, he kind of helped mature a little bit. So that got me to where I am now. I'm blessed, man, because not everybody has good coaches to learn from and to serve as role models and great character models. So I've been blessed.
Man, that's awesome. I love the transformational coaching, aspect of it. It's the same thing that we believe in here. That's what I've tried to live out my life. At the end of the day, the relationships are more important than the results. And I'm a firm believer that, results come, if we take care of the relationships first. Yeah, if we're in it for the right reason. Because kids these days, man, they pick up on that. They know if you're being authentic or
Oh yeah.
not. And when you're not authentic, man, they check out. And whenever they check out, it doesn't matter how much you fuss and how much how hard you try to work, you're not going to get the results. But if you got a team that believes in their coach, believes in one another, man, that transformational piece makes all the difference. And at the end of the day, the championship's the byproduct. We talk about that all the time here. Talk to me a little bit about this past season. Whenever you knew, like, where was there a moment, and it may have even been before this season, where you knew, like, as a program, man, we've really turned that corner. We can get to that next level. Uh, you know, was there a moment in this season where you knew, it's like, this team is different? We can take that next step. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think for me, you can't talk about this season without talking about the previous seasons. I think obviously we made history this year with going to the Final Four, but this was also the first time in our program history where we even won a regional playoff game.
Yeah.
Program had never won a regional playoff game. The 3 previous years, we qualified for regionals and we kept getting bounced in the quarterfinals. And so, whereas, not really one for moral victories, but you recognize the fact that we keep climbing and we you know, keep moving the needle in a positive direction, but we keep falling short. And so, we went into this season with 5 returners from that team that lost the previous year. And, I just saw some of those guys, like I knew in the locker room when we lost, you can just feel the energy. You can read the faces of like, I'm tired of the same old thing. Like we
Yeah.
keep falling in this game. And so going into our off season, we had our banquet in the spring and then we got right back into workouts. You just saw a different passion. You saw a different passion, you saw a different focus. You just saw a different drive. Um, things that you've been doing for, you know, 3 years now just started to seem autopilot. Guys started to taking it more serious. Um, we had some guys that left. Um, we had some guys that left, and quite frankly, the leaving was blindsided. And whereas as a coach, you worry about how does that affect the morale of your team. I saw a group of guys that were just so close knitted, and they were like, we got to keep pushing. We got to
Yeah.
keep pushing. And so for this year, we were fortunate to have a few guys transfer in um, who ended up being solid pieces in our rotation, and they embraced our culture from day one. They didn't come in and try to fight it. They didn't come in and try to be their own person. Our returners really set a good example, and the new guys really kind of locked into how we play and who we are as a culture, who we are as a program. And so we were really good all summer and all fall. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you combine those two, I think we went like 26-4 or something like that. And so as a coach, you're sitting up here like, all right, how do I not wreck the Ferrari here? you know, like our relationships are good, the results have been good, but it's also nothing like the regular season. And so, I kind of went into this year like, I think the basketball piece is going to take care of itself. We have talent, we have experience, we have the drive and motivation. These guys are tired of falling short. We can't lose the culture.
Yeah.
Like, as long as we keep our culture, as long as we stay locked in on that, as long as we have great leadership in place, everything's going to be okay. And so that is how I went through the entire season. Is like, I have a great staff. I knew we were going to be prepared. Players, I knew they were going to be fine, but it was just in those moments of adversity, in those moments when things don't go our way, in the days where we show up to the gym and we just don't have it today. Like, is our culture still going to prevail? And I think, because for me, my job as a head coach is to make sure that the environment is right,
Right.
right? Just make sure the environment is right for my guys to do the best work that they can possibly do, right? As long as that's there, we'll have success. And
Yeah.
I think you have to define what success looks like as a program and as a staff and as players. But once you do that, staying aligned to your culture,
Yeah.
that's what carried us through,
I
for
love
sure.
I love it, man. You're saying things like whenever you talk about the culture and taking care of the environment, in the book that I released back in March, Champions by Design. So one of the things I talk about is understanding your culture is really your ecosystem that your program exists in, and you got to take care of the ecosystem. You got to take care of the environment. You got to make sure that everything's feeding each other. Every element of it's feeding each other properly.
Yeah.
And that's I think so many coaches spend all their time on X's and O's, and they spend their time on skill development, not necessarily holistic player development.
Hmm.
And the culture piece of that. And man, it's like they're missing it. I heard several coaches say, that basically like the most important thing that we do as coaches is coach our culture.
Yeah.
Then, because if we get that piece wrong, man, number one, there is no environment for transformational coaching to take place. there is no, consistency and sustainability year after year, or even week after week within a season, because
Mhm.
as well as I do, coaching as long as you have, man, you get in these situations where like you get in the middle of the season and a little crisis pops up and it's like, how are we going to respond to this? And
Yeah,
if your culture's right, then that stuff has a way of working itself out, with the right, pushing the right button, so to speak, as a coach. But if the culture's wrong, man, a crisis can just tear your program to pieces in the middle of a season.
for sure.
So I really appreciate you saying that, man. Listening to you talk, man, it's a blessing to me to hear just the wisdom that you're speaking with. Um, you know, uh, I wish I could take more credit for sewing all that into you, but like you said, I mean, you've had some phenomenal influences. And the thing that I love about you, Sirdarious, is you're like a sponge. I knew this about you whenever you were a player in the ninth grade, coming in. It was like, I remember we were working on your shooting, and it's like, if I tweaked something, it didn't, like, I've worked with players where, man, it took like weeks just to fix their shooting mechanics and things like that. Where with Sirdarious, man, it was like instantly, like he soaked it up as a sponge, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna make the switch, I'm gonna make the adjustment. And from what I hear, it sounds like you've done that in coaching as you've grown and matured as a coach, and man, I'm so proud of you. I love what I'm hearing tonight. I want to throw some stuff at you, kind of as a rapid fire. Okay, so this is going to be kind of quick answers, or quick one word answers to this. One word that defines championship culture.
Habits.
Habits. I love it. Most overrated thing in basketball.
Mm. Ooh, that's a good one. Um, Style of play.
Style of play. Okay. I like it. I like it. Most underrated leadership trait.
Connection. A connector.
A connector. I love it. Okay. That's part of our leadership profile. See, I'm telling you, the stuff's golden, man. I'm telling you. Softest excuse that players make.
Um, the one I hate the most is I didn't know.
I didn't know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't know.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. I like that. Best team you've ever coached against.
Ooh. Man, don't want to give Columbus no credit. Yeah, I mean, probably most talented. Yeah,
Okay.
Columbus.
Miami Columbus. Okay. All right. Uh player behavior that instantly earns your respect.
Mm. It'd be a tie between communication and sacrifice.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Um what's one thing that every captain should do?
Mm. I'll throw you a curveball here.
Throw it.
Every captain should know the first name of every player in the entire program.
I like it. Yeah. That's it. Um, man, that's huge. Like, because this is true. Like in a program, especially y'all size. I mean, you got, like some of the schools that I've coached at are smaller, so that's pretty easy. But whenever you got, 20, 30, 40 kids between your varsity, your JV, I love it. Um, all right. So,
'Cause I'm gonna piggyback off that.
okay.
The the reason why that's so important to me is because as an educator and as a teacher, you see your kids every single day, right?
Yeah.
So every student in your classroom knows Coach Roundtree is my teacher. But I think the thing that is most impactful to me is like when I'm walking the halls And I see kids I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I've never taught you, I've never seen you. And they're like, oh, hey, Coach Roundtree. And I'm like, these people know me and they've never interacted or met with me. That lets me know that my platform has influence.
Right.
And so it's the same thing with the captain. Like, my senior captain may not ever have any interactions with our freshman basketball players, but those freshman basketball players are watching him every day.
Yeah.
So you should at least know their name.
Absolutely. I love it. I think it's great. And it's that's like a overlooked thing. Like, I mean, we just take that for granted. All right, so hard truth that today's athletes need to hear.
Ooh, hard truth. You're never as good as you really think you are. And there's always room for improvement. I
Absolutely.
think that the complacent, content player is a defeated player. But I would lean into that. Yeah, like, I can already do this. I'm good. So because I'm good, the byproduct that you're going to see now is I don't have to go as hard, or I don't have to focus in as much. But when somebody who catches you because they're doing the opposite,
Right.
then it's going to be like, I would I would lean into that.
Okay. I like it. I love it. All right, last one. What wins more games, talent or habits?
Ooh, talent at our level.
Talent at all
Yeah,
level. Yeah.
at our level, the high school level, I'd say talent.
Yeah.
But I would piggyback off of that and say, when you play a team that's just as talented as you, the team that has the better habits will then take over.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
like, you can have a team that might win, 20 games every year because they're just way more talented, but they never win whenever
Right.
they make a deep run in the playoffs. It's eventually habits win out once you get to that. When you're talking about the Final Four,
Yeah.
it's like habits. And now in y'all's situation, I would say that, I mean, y'all built great habits in your program, and you
Hmm.
probably just ran up against a buzzsaw of a talented team, but uh, they were going for their fifth consecutive state championship. So they've had
Yeah.
consistency in their program, they've had habits in their program, but then also when you come to the talent piece, it's going to win out if you got two teams that have equal culture of like that elite championship culture. There's years where the more talented team just wins. But I
Yeah.
love it, man. This has been a great conversation, and I want to close it with this. If one of your former players sat in this chair 20 years from now, what would you hope they say you taught them besides basketball?
That who they are as a person is more important than who they are as a player. And to not wrap their identity in a sport. Um, I would hope that they would say something about, you know, I taught them more than disposable skills,
Yeah.
right? Like, thanks to you, I can still shoot, so that's not a disposable skill for me. But, but like, like, at some point the ball's gonna stop bouncing for everybody, and they're not, you're not gonna shoot the ball when you're 40 and 50 years old. You're not gonna be, you know, running sprints and trying to get in basketball shape and all these things that we do when we're playing. But at 40 and 50-year-old and 50-year-old, like, you're still going to be leading, right? You're
Yeah.
going to be leading a family. You're going to be leading a business. You're going to be leading a church. You're still going to have to connect and form meaningful relationships. You're still going to have to know who you are as a person, and what's your character, what are your values. Um, obviously, me being somebody that puts my faith in Jesus Christ, like, that's how I coach and that's how I lead. But even if it's, I'm not I'm not, you know, pushing that on all of my players, but I would hope that they find something meaningful enough in life, that they can grasp to, that serves as their compass, to where it puts basketball, or any sport for that matter, in its proper place. Um, playing at Lake Mary, playing for Coach Roundtree, like, it's going to be about high level standards and high level results. And, we're about winning, but winning starts with your habits, winning starts with your character. So I would hope that those things are still, you know, gaining mileage in their lives far beyond, the time they hang their jersey up.
That's it, man. And at the end of the day, that's why we coach, right? It's not just about wins and losses. It's about who we're developing and the character, because we're raising up sons, we're raising up fathers, we're raising up husbands,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. And one day we'll all lay our crowns down, you know, at the one's feet who demonstrated how to do that best, and that was
for
Jesus.
sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
great answer, man. Let me tell you something, man. I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm gonna tell you, I was already prepared because our season ends a little bit before yours does in the way that our playoffs and all finish, to where like if y'all would have punched your ticket on that first night, like I was gonna find my way to Florida for that state championship game. And I publicly want to make that promise to you right now that if you get back there and if I'm not coaching in my own state championship, then I'm coming to see you win that thing because I
Yes,
believe
sir.
that you are on the precipice. I just think that what you're building, I mean, you're talking about the highest level of high school basketball probably anywhere in the country. And I know that it's not easy to win at that level, but it's a matter of time, man. I really believe this. It's a matter of time before you punch that ticket, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to celebrate with you when you do it. It's going to be awesome, and hopefully, man, this summer I'll be able to, at some point, get back down to Florida. Maybe we can catch up, grab a bite to eat together, and spend some time together, man. But thank you for taking this time with us tonight. If there's anything you want to leave us with, right now, I'll give you the opportunity to say it. But I'm really grateful for you coming on with us.
Yeah, no, this has been fun. This has been fun. This is ironically my first podcast. So I enjoyed it. I'm thankful for you, man. Like I can't shed any less light on you than any coach that, I've had the privilege to learn from and be under. So I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for the relationship first and foremost. We're definitely gonna get back. We're
Oh yeah,
definitely gonna get back for sure. I love what we're building, but it's this whole experience has just helped me, and I think that's where you can make the most impact with your players too, is from your own experiences. And one thing I often ask my guys are like, who are you becoming?
yeah,
Because that's the most important thing. Like you're gonna always have goals, you're gonna always be chasing something, you're gonna always have something that you're attaining for, but it's like, who are you becoming as a result of that? And so, this time spent with you guys today has made me better. And I hope I've done the same for you guys and look forward to seeing more of the footage that you guys put on. You guys do great stuff. And I've started reading your book. The book is
yeah.
amazing, man.
Well, thank you, man. I
Book is
appreciate that.
amazing.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Well, hey, I love you, buddy, and man, I can't wait to see what the future holds, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right.